Hello all, welcome to Kalam IAS Academy. So today we'll be having a detailed analysis of the UPSC Essay Paper 2022, that is the 8th topic. Just because you have a choice does not mean that any of them has to be right. So what do you understand by this? It means that having a choice does not automatically guarantee that any of them are inherently right. There are many situations where we might not have any of the choices being right. There in that situation, challenge is to select the lesser evil option. Again, there are several other important factors to consider whether an option is to be opted for or not. Because the context matters. Because the right choice, it will depend heavily upon the specific situations it is in, the value system, and the potential consequences of each option. Because what is right in one context might be wrong in another context. Again, the morality and the legality has to be considered because they are not always aligned. That means just because something is legal does not mean it is morally right. You can take example of slavery. Slavery was legal, but it is not yet considered morally right today. It is widely considered morally wrong. Take the example of lockdown, which was revolving around two choices, imposing or not imposing strict lockdown. And we saw that imposing strict lockdown resulted in the loss of jobs and widespread distress among the public during the first lockdown. But in the second COVID wave, in the second lockdown, we were not imposing any strict lockdown that caused massive death of individuals. So none of the above two choices available that time was absolutely right. Again, take the example of investment of money. Because different investments, they offer varying risks and rewards. And your right choice of investing your money, it will depend upon the risk tolerance, your financial goals, and the investment time frame. Right? So this is the main crux of the topic. Coming to the brainstorming of the topic, you need to decide some 4-5 important dimensions over here. First is, what kind of choices do not have any right option? You have to give certain situations where the choices cannot be said right. Any of the choices cannot be said right. Then what is the significance of doubting the choices themselves? And if the options themselves are not right and adequate, then what should be the course ahead? Should we go into inaction? And is it possible in situations where all choices would be flatly wrong? Will there be no degree of rightness in options? Then what could be the tools for selecting between the two not right decisions? So these are the major dimensions for this particular essay. You have to think how, why, what if not. In this way, you can generate questions and create your dimensions. Then you come to the way forward, that what can be done to minimize the potential risk if not taking the right decisions. So first we come to what kind of choices do not have any right option. Come to the individual level. So in order to structure your arguments, you can take help of the level approach over here. You can talk of the individual level, the national level, the developmental level, the policy level. Under individual level, you can talk of the circumstances. A privileged person may have two options to go to office: driving his luxury car or going on a budget car. But here none may be right, as office may be nearby his or her home, and in that case riding a bicycle or going by walking is an ideal option. Then come to food. When you are in a fast food court, all the available options would be more or less not right for your healthy body. So here the choices are not right. Any of the choices are not right. Then if you come to the national level, you can take example of RCP. Joining RCP or not joining RCP has its own advantages and disadvantages. So selecting any one of them would be not a completely right decision. You can take help of an international example. Bangladesh liberation you can talk of. That time allowing the influx of refugees from East Pakistan and not acting upon it was considered not good for the security and peace of the northeastern states. But if we would have acted in such a situation, it would have amounted to interference in the domestic matter. So both ways it is having some kind of dilemma. So we can discuss here all the dilemma situations. Then coming to the developmental aspect, making dam or not, making dam again has its own problem. Making dam, it would displace thousands of people, but not making dam would deprive larger population to have continuous electricity supply. Then with respect to the public policy, you can talk of the reservation. Having reservation or not having reservation, it's a debatable topic. So giving reservation, it may deprive other meritorious candidates, but not giving a reservation at all, it will continue the historical injustices to the downtrodden section. Capital punishment you can talk of. If it is given, it will take away life forever. But not giving, it may be kind of an inaction on the part of the state to act firmly against any heinous crime. So these examples you can give. In this case, you can talk of the dilemmatic situations. Then what is the significance of doubting the rightness of choice? What will be the benefits of doubting the rightness of the choice? You can talk of the social change, where you can talk of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, how he had the choice to support the old traditional practice of sati, but he doubted this practice. He read about this practice and found that it does not have any scriptural backing. Hence, he opposed and helped in getting sati abolished in the year 1829. Again, you can talk of, in this context, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar's effort towards bringing Widow Remarriage Act of 1856. You can talk of the efforts of T.N. Sesson towards the strengthening of the electoral process. He doubted the prevailing electoral process of election and brought out reforms to make it truly fair and free process. You can talk of Mahatma Gandhi, how he doubted both the approaches that was prevailing at that time, the extremist and the moderate approach, and thus he came out with his own version of Satyagraha, non-violence. Then you can talk of the Maurya dynasty, how Ashoka always had an option to fight war after war, but he doubted that approach post Kalinga war and transformed himself to bring a new dawn for the whole kingdom. So these are the benefits of doubting the choices. What should be done if none of the choices are right? Firstly, you should be broadening your choice base. For instance, you can think of bringing no car between luxury or budget car. Okay, you can talk of bringing bicycle. You can talk of bringing a EV. Then you have to find out alternative options. That means giving reservation but bringing conditionality like no reservation after second generation. You can talk of the nota option to indicate that none of the above options are right for the voter. When voter is dissatisfied with each and every candidate there, so the voter is given a nota option in the election. In security perspective, you can talk of the surgical strike, finding middle path through surgical strike, where responding with war can be an act of terror and keeping silent can be an cowardly act. Right? If we cannot expand the choice base, then what should we do? So what are the tools for selecting between the two not right decisions? First is you have to assess that which option is giving maximum benefit to maximum people. That means going ahead with the dam after bringing out a good rehabilitation deal. In many situations, we can focus on the righteousness of the means. That is the most safest option to avoid any future trouble. Then we can also refer to some heritage and past precedents in selecting between the two options. That is also one of the tools for selecting between two not right decisions. Right? Then what is the way forward? When we fail to take completely right decision, then we should also take measures to minimize the potential risk associated with it. For example, lockdown announced, but measures were taken in the form of free food grains. So in that way, we could minimize the potential risk associated with the option. Similarly, before making a decision, we need to gather all the available information. Why? Because we need to identify the potential risk associated with the particular option and develop the contingency plan accordingly. Again, we need to identify the values and the priorities also, so that it will guide in the evaluation of the risk and the potential trade-offs. Again, we need to consider the worst case scenario, because focusing only on the positive possibilities, it will stop us from thinking that what can go wrong with each option and how to manage the situation. Then after making a decision, we should be ready with the contingency plan. We should be having enough backup options in order to address the potential negative outcomes. This may involve having alternative resources, communication strategies, mitigation plans. Again, we have to be actively involved in the whole process of the decision. We need to monitor the situation closely. We have to regularly evaluate the impact of the decision. And we need to be open to adapting the course of action as needed as per the situation. Then we also need to learn from the mistakes. So this valuable learning experience, it will help improve the future decision making. And also we should not hesitate from seeking support if needed. We should be seeking support from professionals, from support groups. Right? So these can be your way forward points in order to be prepared with the choice you are making. Then come to the conclusion. You can write that how the idea of rightness and wrongness, it is a relative concept, and how it depends upon the viewer and the context of the situation. So absolute rationality and rightness is a utopian concept. And the most pragmatic approach would be to make timely decision with all the available information on the table, to be prepared for every kind of worst scenario. In the hindsight, it is easy to say what was right or wrong, but that time the only thing which is doable is to use your own analysis after a detailed cost benefit report in selecting between the two choices. At the same time, we should be ready to rise to the occasion when the choices are blatantly going wrong, as seen in the case of Mahatma Gandhi ji, where he did not opt for any of the approaches that was prevailing that time, neither the moderate approach nor the extremist approach. He pursued his own approach of satyagraha and non-violence. So this is how you can connect to some of the examples from the body part and conclude the essay. So it is very important to have that element of connecting back to the introduction or the body part in the conclusion. Okay, so that it seems that you are writing relevant content, you're writing closely related to the topic according to the UPSC directive, right? So this was all about today's discussion.